kitchen has no door. Walls make traps. Doors face children. No windows. Just cage. Someone slept here. But this void moves. You follow the rules? If a home can shelter you, can it also trap you? Trace these clean lines with your eyes. The staircase climbs. The bathrooms wait. Every doorway promises comfort. Yet something breathes between the walls, hidden in obedient geometry, a patient absence with a pulse. Could you survive a house that edits you out? Look again. Can you sense the wrongness from a plan alone, before it closes like a mouth around your days? Steam curls around his knuckles as he asks about the sheet on the counter. A plan. The husband nods. The beat of silence steals the air. He admits they are expecting a baby. The writer offers quiet congratulations. Joy sketches new needs, and the paper seems to grow heavier in his hands. He considers buying. A quiet street, a new build, convenience wrapped in polite silence. The facade watches, pretending to sleep. Inside, light floods wide rooms, and two hearts lean into hope. His voice tightens, and a single word hangs between them. Look, right here. A fingertip hovers over the kitchen. His breath stalls. There is no door. Four walls, like teeth, seal a stove inside. Recognition shivers through the room, small and cold. The real kitchen gleams, yet something refuses passage. Cabinets wait, the air tastes unused, a faint chemical chill. He calls the agent and gets a blank reassurance that never reaches him. His hand finds the cup, the saucer rattles, a soft betrayal of nerves. The paper tilts, ink corridors sliding, certainty slipping off the edge. What kind of house blocks its own heart and orders you to pretend it is fine? Some houses welcome you, some houses feed. If the kitchen is a sealed stomach, how long before the walls digest your habits, then your name, then you? Could you walk in smiling and leave without a trace, cleanly erased? No blood, no scream, just silence where you used to stand. If a house can swallow a life without leaving a stain, who do you call before you step inside? Under greasy light and low chatter, she wonders why her name sits on the table. She says she knows nothing about architecture, yet her pulse hammers with secrets the walls keep, and the coffee turns bitter on her tongue.
He leans in with a bargaining grin.
But you hunt the occult,
he says, sliding a page across, foam clinging to the lip of her mug. A novice in blueprints, she mutters. He drops her title like a key, turning a lock she tried to ignore. Her fingers leave wet crescents on the glass as she drinks for courage. Work drags her into dim rooms and long nights where people whisper their hauntings. She collects their tremors, the quiver in voices, the cold sweat in pauses, and she knows patterns are predators that devour the careless. Some addresses wear curses like perfume, traded in hushed tones. A building stands, polite and quiet, yet it watches like a patient animal waiting for the first misstep. Stairs breathe. Wood gives a tired moan from above, though no one should be there. The air tastes old and bitter, like wet dust behind a tongue. Every step you do not see taps at your ribs, asking if you will climb or freeze. In the living room, a quiet gaze pins your spine. The television sleeps dark, yet you feel pupils skating over your skin. The closet answers with soft murmurs, a choir behind paper and wood. Torn seams flutter, as if mouths test the gaps to taste your name. Most houses haunt by habit, but this one edits. It rewrites movement, erases exits, shaves off options, and files people down until choices stop existing. Back at the table, he calls it an occult story, a label meant to make fear tidy. She denies, then lets a spark slip. He smiles, intrigued. Curiosity is a lure baited with your own questions. The plan rustles, labels march like orders, the hall, the entrance, the garage, the living room, the toilet, the tables, all so neat. Neat is vicious. Neat can hide a mouth. A realization blooms, warm as the mug in her hands, sharp as a pin under the nail. Her pupils tighten, her throat dries. Something in the layout refuses passage. He asks what is wrong. She stalls, breath shallow, eyes tracing roots that do not quite join, her index finger hovering and trembling. The page feels colder than paper should. Kitchen, dining, living, bedroom. The words look harmless, yet the paths not, guiding a body while trapping a mind.
She will call a designer who loves the occult, someone who knows when a plan is bait. If a home can feed, it picks who to taste first, and it chews slowly. This was Midnight Blueprint. Keep the lights on, watch your exits, and if a floor plan ever smiles, do not walk in. The line hums like a vein under the skin, waiting to spill a secret. Cold plastic presses his ear as the silence stretches thin. If a house hides a mouth, would you still step inside? He offers polite words, armor made of manners. Kurihara chuckles, tells him to drop the formalities. In the aquarium, bubbles climb like tiny lungs fighting for air. They lay the first floor plan between them in words. A room without a door waits like a blind spot. Kurihara's voice turns certain. Whoever drew this wanted it that way. Intentionally, he repeats, the word tasting metallic. Why build a pocket that refuses to open? Because two needless walls squeeze the air and shape a void. Take them away. The hall and kitchen breathe. Keep them. The void survives. Hungry and precise. Stainless whispers under the range hood. The cabinet doors rest still, yet that pale block muscles into the room. Someone chose to shrink the kitchen just to protect the hollow. That choice declares the hollow essential. He asks what for. Kurihara adjusts his glasses and floats the safe answer. Maybe it was storage. People love to hide things, from clutter to shame. Give the living room a thin seam of a door, and the space becomes a closet. Cedar drifts in, warm fabric sighs, and hangers slide with a hush. Face it toward the kitchen, and plates stack like quiet moons. Porcelain clicks, spices breathe, a cupboard grows over the wound and calls it useful. Or plans changed, Kurihara admits. Budgets bite, a door died on paper, and the leftover meat became part of the house. He nods into the line, jaw tight, as if repetition could make simplicity true. Construction hardens like scabbed concrete. Once it sets, you stop cutting. A void gets sealed in, a tomb with no name, clean on the drawings. So it is not a cult, he says, almost laughing. Kurihara agrees. Relief brushes the line, thin as frost on glass. Just, he starts, and the room tightens. His grip creaks on the receiver. Sweat beads, his knuckles pale. Something unsaid pushes at his teeth, begging to bite through. He forces a smile that never reaches his eyes, and the line hums on. Somewhere behind the walls, the empty space smiles back. Could you raise a child in a room that never sees the sun? The fluorescent light hums while the model house watches from the shelf. Kurihara asks who built this place, and the answer tastes old. A couple, and a small child pressed into memory like damp silhouettes. His lenses flash, hunting the detail that bites. A small child. How old? Paper rasps against a cheek. She admits she never checked. Her voice stiff, the air stale like a box never opened. Kurihara calls the second floor the true oddity. He steers her gaze to the children's room, encircled by rooms that hem it in. She studies, a bead of sweat crawling while silence thickens like wet plaster. What did they hide at the center, boxed in by plumbing and walls? She notices two doors, a double door staring like a lid. Kurihara agrees. The placement feels wrong, and the air turns thin. From the stairs, you must snake through changing rooms and thresholds to reach the children. Architecture obeys purpose. So what purpose needs a detour and a barricade? Why design a home that moves like a trap? The reveal lands cold. The children's room has not a single window. Her breath snags and paper edges bite her fingers as she listens. Most parents chase sunlight for their kids. This plan denies light like a punishment. He's never seen a windowless children's room in a detached house. She wonders about illness, a skin ailment, a life that cannot stand the sun. He counters softly. Curtains exist. Shade is easy. Designing darkness from the start is different. The curtains in his mind slide shut, and the room stays blind. Unease crawls up his spine, whispering that someone wanted the child unseen. She nods, almost smiling to hide the chill. Another snag catches him, and his voice tightens. Look at the toilet. The door faces the children's room. No hall, no side entry, no mercy. You enter only through where the child sleeps. She confirms it with a quiet breath. He wonders if that restroom was built for the children's room alone. Perhaps the house raised walls to control one small life. Could you survive in a home that turns love into walls and doors, or would it devour you? How many doors would you cross before darkness tamed you, before a house taught you obedience? On the second floor, A room breathes like an airlock. 2 doors in series, no windows. A bed beside a lonely toilet. Every corridor around it sees daylight, while this box swallows it. The wood grain underfoot would creak. It smells of bleach and damp wood, but no breeze would answer. She listens on the line, thumb worrying the coiled cord, bandage itching across her nose. Her breath turns shallow, pupils widen, skin prickles. Her fingers tremble against the plastic. She whispers, "It feels like solitary confinement." The word hangs like a sentence. Across town, Kurihara reclines amid paper and dust, voice low, almost gentle. He hears a hunger for absolute authority over children, control dressed up as care. To call it overprotective would be a lie. He maps the space like a prison cell. A bed, 2 shelves, 1 door, a quiet cage. He says the child was kept locked inside until the world forgot their name. Sweat beads along her brow, her voice thins, her knuckles bleach around the receiver. Her stomach knots as the silence stretches. Is it abuse?
Kurihara does not flinch. It is possible, he urges her to scratch beneath the surface where varnish curls and rot shows. In the hush of that bare room, a small body perches on a thin bed, shoulders drawn tight. The air tastes stale. Dust drifts like slow snow, and a high window stares without mercy. He says the parents hid their child, tight-lipped as clams, terrified of other eyes. The house does not need chains, it only needs doors and your obedience. Could you survive its patience? The house teaches patience. It starves you with silence. Could you survive a home designed to erase a child? Kurihara orders a full sweep of the 2nd floor. Paper crackles under his thumb. His breath stays slow. Rooms seem to tilt inward, arranged to smother a single life. At the center sits the children's room, boxed by walls with purpose. No corridor offers a line of sight, only hallways circling like a moat. A secret lives there, tidy and cruel. Outside, the facade betrays nothing. You could watch from the curb until dusk, and still see no child, no window, no witness. The building swallows evidence. He drops courtesy and states the parents can find their children, hiding their very existence. The writer agrees, her voice tight. Imagine air that tastes stale, curtains nailed in place by fear. A small figure stands in the center, shoulders locked, trying not to breathe.
Why do this?
The question scrapes like a raw throat. Kurihara admits he does not know. The motive rots off screen, leaving a damp smell of secrets. Yet the map whispers. This household moved around a pressure none of them dared name. Walls thicken, doors multiply, habits congeal. Something malignant sits at the core. He tracks the adjacency. A bedroom presses against the children's room. The double bed marks the couple's claim. Yes, the writer murmurs, her finger brushing paper, the corded phone warm against her cheek. Here, light floods. Windows crowd the walls. The space breathes easy. The husband praises the bright design. His wife echoes him. Dark irony. Their comfort blooms beside a muffled cell. Kurihara lowers his voice. The bathing area sits up top, and the next room doubles as a changing space. That detail bothers him. Privacy bends around convenience until it snaps. From the bed, you can watch the changing space, end to end. No door interrupts the stare. The line of sight crawls over skin, slow and cold. The writer notices. Her pen stalls. He wonders about bath time, how lovers hide or do not hide. He decides they were close, maybe too close. Imbalance breeds dread, because a child sits trapped while affection feasts. Understanding clicks. Her eyes narrow. She drags a finger across the plan and stops. Something small, misplaced, sharp as a splinter. A quiet hum slips out. You think the house is finished, but it is only resting. It keeps chewing through silence. And somewhere behind those bright windows, a child learns to disappear. If a home hides the place where it washes you, what sin rots in its walls? He freezes, the coiled cord biting into his fingers. A distant voice asks what is wrong. His pulse answers louder than his mouth. Could you live where even steam cannot escape? He drags a fingertip across thin ink walls, the dry paper rasping under his nail, past doors that trap more than air. The bath sits apart from the shower, a split that feels surgical. He asks if that is ordinary. Kurihara breathes on the other end, says it exists, but he rarely sees it. Rare things in houses are not accidents. He studies the wet rooms. The tub room has no window, only cold tile and a drain that swallows secrets. The shower room gapes with a wide window, offering air and eyes. Damp breath would cling to the tub room, sting the nose with mildew, creep into lungs, breed in cold mold. Why grant sight to one and blind the other? Kurihara answers softly, yet certain. The truth slips out. It is a creepy house when you really look. A date anchors the doubt. The 1st of February, 2016. He asks if he should walk away.
The professional mask tightens. From the plan alone, it is hard to judge, but he would not buy. If he would not, why should anyone? He bows, habit folding his spine though no one can see. Laughter, thin and polite, skates over the chill crawling his neck. Plastic meets plastic with a dull bite, and the line goes silent. 2 sheets sprawl like a map of trapped breath. The lamp's curve circles the paper like a noose. His finger hovers, then pins a corner, as if nailing down something that wants to crawl away. In the quiet, the house feels awake. It rests, but it chews through the silence. A place that teaches you where to hide also learns how to devour you. Could you sleep in a home that watches you vanish? Could you sleep while the house learns your scent and counts your breaths? 2 warm bodies, 2 duvets, 1 shared silence. The window seals the night, and the floor plan in the corner whispers where the walls really end. Right beside that comfort, a small shape curls on a low rail bed, knees pressed together, fingers knot, nails scrape skin. There is no window. The air tastes stale, like a closet that never opens. The room eats sound, and fear clings like damp cloth. The writer traces the floor plan, matching rooms like scars. Their jaw tightens. It's not neglect, it's abuse. If not for the void on the first floor, this would be ordinary. Beige life, easy to ignore. Yet there is a blank in the diagram that bites the eye. In the workroom, paper rustles like dry leaves. The writer leans in. The spine of the chair creaks. The cutaway shows a shaft, a dark vertical wound. They call it storage. They claim it was never built. Like a ghost you should stop seeing. Is that really true? Or is a lie nailed over a hole that keeps swallowing light? Pages slide and overlap. Fingertips tremble. A bead of sweat cools on the wrist. A low hum leaks out. Doubt rough in their throat. Then they spot it. Doorways align across versions. It draws a path that isn't on the brochure. They whisper, "This is familiar, but wrong." Living room, kitchen, and entryway all account for their space, yet the margins never meet. A gap survives every revision, like a missing tooth behind a smile. Flat on their back, they lift the papers to the light. The ink seems to shiver. Sweat pricks the temple. The pupils widen. Is this a coincidence? Or a pattern stitched under the wallpaper? Where the house was designed to hide? The table, the sofa, the bedroom, all labeled to soothe you. But the mouth stays unlabeled, waiting for someone small enough to fit. The house does not speak. It waits. Breathe too loud, linger too long, and it will remember the size of you. Could you live in a house that remembers you better than you remember yourself? In the hush, the bandaged girl kneels, legs prickling, palms damp against the cushion. Her pupils track the corridor, listening for a door to breathe, tasting dust at the back of her throat. The door slides, cooler air brushes skin. She whispers Kurihara's name, a plea wrapped in courtesy. Four Eyes steps in with a tired smile, thanks them for waiting, and flicks her apology away like dust from a sleeve. Cups warm their fingers. Steam softens the room. She murmurs that it has been a while. He agrees and praises the shop. Small talk bleeds off the nerves, but the real subject waits in the dark under their words. He gestures toward the old house they moved into, a body uprooted and set down again. Timber smells clean, resin bright, but age clings like a shadow. With a soft chuckle, she admits old bones have a charm new walls cannot fake. Porcelain touches her lip, and the heat steadies her courage. Four Eyes explains a place picks up habits. Tatami thins where feet always pass. A rail turns slick under years of hands. Even when people vanish, the house keeps talking. It mutters how they lived. He turns the talk to the layout, fingers tracing invisible lines. Garden air drifts in, carrying a thin cool that smells of leaves and dust. The long-haired girl asks if something feels wrong,
She cannot shake the first floor, says it might rhyme with the second floor. Her grip wrinkles the papers, knuckles paling. He nods once, a quiet invitation. She lays the plans, one over the other, careful as if aligning ribs. Paper meets wood with a soft kiss, and the table gives a small breath. Fingers square the edges of the second floor. She marks the corner where the children's room meets the bathroom, says it fits too neatly. The floor plan feels less like lines and more like tracks. She describes a bridge between the children's room and the bathroom, a path meant to be easy in the night. Four Eyes studies the flow, eyes narrowing behind glass. Her voice thins, a soft "so" caught on her tongue. He answers, "Yeah," encouraging without crowding her. Silence pools, the kind that makes every clink of porcelain sound loud. She calls it an amateur thought. Asks if by any chance the house is guiding them rather than the other way around. The garden hums, the paper waits, the old place listens, patient. Could you survive a home that chooses where your feet fall?
If a house decided your route, would you notice before it devoured your choices?
The girl with long hair studies the map in her head, tracing shortcuts no one taught her, tasting dust that smells like old rain. She names the void a corridor. Four Eyes listens, fingers still, and the old place seems to hold its breath. Picture a hole bored through plaster and pride. Stale air climbs from beneath the children's floor, across the first floor void, into cold tile that chills the ankles. A child could drop through, then rise in the bathroom unseen, skin prickling from the sudden cold, back and forth, like breath moving through a hidden lung. Parents hid a life inside these walls, not mercy, just fear that curdled and hardened. Houses like this swallow children and call it care, their bones filed under good intentions. The open hallway would rat them out. A window is a mouth for gossip, hungry for a glimpse of skin in the wrong place. One stray silhouette, and the lie dies. So they carved a back route. Wood groaned, the air tasted like bitter sawdust, tile bit like ice under wet feet. The kid could reach water without crossing a single accusing eye. A shelf stands where a hole should whisper. Boards hide splinters, and splinters hide truths. Do it long enough, and the outside never knows the child exists. She asks for judgment, voice thin, eyes steady, knuckles pale against the table edge. Four Eyes thinks, fingers grazing his stubble, pupils narrowing. He calls it interesting, like a blade admired for balance. She wonders if she is chasing shadows. He shrugs that sneaking a bath is not worth the hassle, the words flat, the kind that bruise. The table keeps their secrets beneath sweating glasses, water sliding like nervous tears. Heat floods her cheeks, a small smile trembling at the corners. She admits it, soft, breath hitching. He apologizes, voice low, throat dry. Outside, a plant scratches the window like a patient fingernail. Paper rasps under her hand. She backtracks and asks him to forget it, the words tripping. The glass leaves a wet ring, like a clock running down. Four Eyes almost mentions the bathroom theory, then bites it back. She asks what is wrong. His gaze pins the floor plan, where rooms line up like teeth, and an idea clicks hard enough to hurt. Were the last tenants a trio? Husband, wife, and child? She nods once. 3 bodies, 3 routines, 3 lies waiting to be measured against a house that never forgets. He raises a finger, counting ghosts. 1 more bed remains. The couple breathes slow upstairs, the room warm with stale sleep. The kid curls under a thin blanket, small breath stitching the dark, chest fluttering like a trapped moth. So who owns the bedroom on the first floor? The plan glows like a wound. If the house guides footsteps, who walked where no one was supposed to? And what did they need so badly that they risked the light? Could you sleep in that room, with the walls listening? Would you sleep in a house that invites strangers and remembers lies better than names? At the cold window, Four Eyes lets a theory float. Maybe that room was meant for guests. The skeptic rubs his lip, breath smearing the glass in a pale film, fingertips numb, and the house counts visitors in silence. It welcomed many, faces already fading, footsteps filed away like evidence. Shoes wait on the tile like witnesses, a child's room without windows, a throat without air, built to quiet and contain. 2 bathrooms whisper traffic, not kindness, a layout for flow and control.
The leather stinks damp, and the floor bites the arches until the calves tighten. Fold those clues into the corridor he traced, and the tale sharpens its teeth. Paths bend to herd, corners teach obedience, doors pace movement with clicks that measure fear. A gridded opening breathes just enough to bleed heat, not screams. The blueprint reads like choreography for a captive, every step predicted, every pause punished. Four Eyes settles at the low table and calls it ridiculous. He asks you to hear it as hobby talk, the indulgence of a mystery lover, yet his fingers will not still. A staccato against lacquer. Sweat slicks the rim of the glass. Pupils blown wide, and doubt tastes metallic. Rain needles the roof while a couple frames a child between them at the door. They look solid from the street, but the night edits truths. Inside, the child perches on a thin bed, knees together, eyes lowered. The room is neat and airless. Wood stares back, dust refuses to move. They kept the kid inside for a purpose, colder than punishment, a plan with edges. What purpose needs darkness and silence as tools? Could you stand in that doorway, hear those small breaths, and not imagine the hinges rusting in salt from tears?
Himura offers a thin smile. Do not be sad. He murmurs, smile more often. The words hang like frost, and the room stays cold.
How far would you trust a smile framed by a warm doorway? You step in, shoes damp, and the host in an apron bows too low. Polite words glide over lacquered floors, yet his fingers drum, and her eyes measure, weighing you like meat on a scale. A bottle changes hands, cold glass sweating, France on the label, gratitude rehearsed and gentle. Dinner hums with clinks and small laughs, the air buttered with comfort. The guest rolls his sleeves, lifts his wrist, catches a thin glint from his watch, and murmurs that it is late. Is it worse to be rude or to stay? The offer lands soft. Stay the night. No trouble at all. A guest room waits. Sheets tight. Corners crisp. A bath already drawn. The air thickens as they guide him toward a windowless washroom upstairs. No breeze, only the sterile bite of cleanser and damp tile. The door kisses the frame with a careful hush. Hospitality narrows to a box. Water begins to run, and the wife moves without creak or cough. A soft knuckle taps the children's door, once, a signal more than a sound. Inside, the little one sits rigid, breath held until ribs ache, eyes flat as coins, waiting for permission that feels older than childhood. Boards lift, a hidden mouth in the floor yawns, and small hands crawl into the first floor dark. The smell down there is dust, soap, and something metallic that never washes out. Beyond the hatch, water whispers against tile. The guest sits and scrubs, eyes shut, ears filled, naked and unarmed, warmth tricking his nerves into trust. His breath slows, the room listens, the quiet tightens like a wire.
Four Eyes maps it out with clinical calm. A blade rises behind wet shoulders and dives, hungry, into muscle and spine. The vision hits so hard the listener jerks, throat tight, a hoarse what, tearing free as sweat beads and runs. Why talk about this now? He asks, hand hovering near the glass. The man with the blueprint grin shrugs it off as imagination. Just a hobby thought, he claims, but his eyes shine like scalpel steel. Could you keep eating while a plan like that breathes beside you? Picture the stall, steam falling like threads, skin unguarded under harsh light. The attacker pins the guest, bottle in fist, shock ringing his skull. Drunk and disoriented, he cannot parse what is happening, hands searching tile that offers no mercy. A long blade lifts for the kill, and all the warmth in the world slides down the grate. The little one finishes it. Small feet whisper on wet stone. Small lungs do not tremble, and the knife works the back in brutal rhythm. Flesh parts, blood fans the walls. No scream holds shape long enough to matter. Red freckles the grout, then runs in ropes, thick and bright. The smell of iron blooms in the heat, sweet and sick, clinging to every glazed square. An eye stares at nothing, rimmed with flecks that refuse to dry. The body keeps breathing like a bad habit, then forgets how. By the tub, the child sags, blade low, while the room drowns in what used to be a man. The guest folds to the tile without understanding a thing, and death takes him with no ceremony. Outside, rain devours the street and drums the roof to sleep. Four Eyes sums it up in one cruel truth. This place was not built for comfort. It was built to kill. Would you have seen it coming? If a house wanted you gone, how long would you last? Sweat slides down her cheek as Four Eyes spins a fresh cruelty. He remembers the shelf hiding a wound in the wall and demands another possibility. On the second floor plan, 2 neat boxes labeled shelves sit in the children's room. He points to the quiet one. Imagine its belly cut open, a mouth beneath the wood, linked to the bathroom wall, a second throat in the house. Kurihara swallows, tongue thick, fingers worrying the hem until her knuckles blanch. She starts to say the word, then stops. He asks where the path would surface below. She traces the grid in her mind and lands on the storage room. Four Eyes leans into the shadows. If that alignment holds, this place was built with a route for disposing of corpses. He says it like weather, and he believes it. Her voice scrapes, breath thin, fishing for mercy. He gives none. The couple already killed. The bathroom stinks of iron and steam. They cannot leave the meat here. No neighbor can see a body leave. So they aim for the hole, but the opening is vicious and narrow, tile and stone biting at the edges. An adult does not fit, so they take a saw. Teeth rasp, tendon twangs, marrow pops like wet cork. They carve the guest into cargo, small enough to pass, tile by tile. Blood freckles their hands, wrists burn. The room breathes with the pull and the push. He lets the sentence hang, small enough for a child to carry. The kid sits folded into himself, bowl cut haloed in black. An adult hand drifts closer, patient and cold. Fear has a sound here, a tight hiss through the nose, a heel grinding the tile to stay awake. Could you ask a child to lift that weight? Kurihara stiffens, pupils blown wide. Four Eyes continues, steady as a metronome. The couple drops each piece into the bathroom throat. The house devours, water stains and grout drinking the dark. The boy ferries them to his room, one by one, hour after hour, shoulders shaking with every trip. He feeds a second shaft, and the cargo slips down, unseen from the street. It slides through the bones of the house toward the storage room and the garage. From there, the trunk yawns. They stuff the body in and close the lid on the stink. The engine coughs, rubber whispers, and the mountain takes what men do not want. The forest eats quietly. Could you ever find it again? He praises the station and the trees, voice smooth as a brochure. Across the table, her breath snags. A bead of sweat slides cold down her neck. If a home sells calm, what price does blood pay? On that quiet street, a promise twists. The ugliest acts thrive in windowless rooms, watched by no one, sealed from every angle. Murder loves darkness more than curtains. Four Eyes tilts his glasses, catching the light. They can kill at any time, any season, day or night. He smiles, inviting judgment. What do you think?
Kurihara studies the plans, jaw tight, breath shallow. If we accept your story at face value, where does the logic fail?
A hand drags heavy curtains across the bunk bed window, fabric rasping. If the goal is to kill unseen, close every curtain. Why build an elaborate machine for death?
The architect lifts a finger, almost amused. That is the point. People close curtains to hide, especially when blood is on the docket. So a house with curtains flung wide becomes bait. No one expects a slaughter in plain view. Kurihara exhales, eyes narrowing. A psychological trick? He nods without warmth. He taps the floor plan, voice low. Look here.
This shell worships glass. The first and second floors glitter with panes. He counted them, 16 windows in total. The house almost whispers, "Go ahead, stare inside." He sits back, arms folded, voice a touch softer. There is a room that must never be seen. The windows act as camouflage, a forest of glass hiding one forbidden tree. They step into the children's room at noon, neat wood and harmless order. The label tastes sour in the mouth, like medicine stuck on the tongue. Kurihara's pupils dilate, sweat beads at her temple, skin prickling. "No way," she whispers, a plea more than a question. Mostly a joke, Four Eyes claims, palm open in bluff honesty, but he cannot swear it. Doubt crawls under the skin like frostbite.
Search mysterious incidents, he murmurs. Use any engine you trust. See what the world buries in forums and obituaries. Do you dare to look?
He leaves the rest unsaid. If you smile now, it is only to keep your teeth from chattering. Would you live in a house that kills for you and swear it loves you back? Headlines pile up like bodies, ugly, senseless, hungry for attention. The world keeps birthing twisted crimes that make pulp look polite. Picture a smiling couple who remodel walls into teeth. They keep their hands clean, while small sneakers squeak on tile. A child clutches a knife, wrist guided by a larger shadow. Could you blame the house, or the hands that steer it?
Kurihara swallows, eyes narrowed. His fingers twitch near the cup, a bead of sweat cooling his temple. He forces the question out. If that nightmare is real, why do it? And who demands the blood?
Four Eyes laces his words with gravel. It is hard to believe all that effort exists to trap one unlucky soul. The blueprint screams for repeat use. He spells it out, steady and cold. He means regular killing. It is not a lover's burst of rage. It becomes a routine, a schedule, a habit carved into timber. He names the engine behind it, requests. Contracts whisper through channels that never see sunlight. Kurihara echoes the word, unsure if it tastes like truth or poison. Out there, sites promise murder for hire with glossy submission forms. They once trended across the so-called dark web, a social bruise everyone poked. Most are smoke and mirrors. Some are not. A life can be priced between 200,000 and 300,000 yen, cheap enough to tempt the worst in people. These are amateurs, but they adapt fast. Their tools multiply, their methods twist. Metal warms in the palm, smelling like coins and old blood. Each job refines the next. Kurihara stares at the quiet house, lips pale. He names it for what it might be, a workplace for a contract killer. The driveway feels colder. Four Eyes lifts an open hand, refusing certainty. It is possible, he admits. Nothing more. Possibility is enough to unsettle the floorboards. Later, the mirror throws Kurihara back at himself, eyes rimmed, mouth set. He hums without a tune, while one drop of sweat traces a careful path. In the tatami hush, floor plans breathe like map skin. Four Eyes shrugs off his own theory as a horror fan's fancy. Do not take it seriously, he says, yet no one exhales. If the city pressed a knife to your spine as you crossed, would you feel it in time? Power lines hiss, engines breathe hot, diesel stings the air, a child darts through the white paint of the crosswalk. The architect keeps pace, but his thoughts drag like wet cloth. Four Eyes called it a fantasy that might be true. Dedicat, in the cell. Worse. Lucy's face, the glass remembers. Blood freckles the air behind a child-sized shadow. A hand rises, knuckles white, steel itching to cut. Is this memory? Or wishful terror? Either way, breath fogs the pain, and the world narrows to a blade. He walks the quiet blocks where trees hang like watchers. A parked car mirrors his face. Tired, stubborn, he climbs the metal steps, each tread ringing, and weighs the story. A hitman couple who used their child to kill. Too far-fetched, he mutters, yet his pulse taps in his throat. If Kurihara told the truth, what should he do? The key bites the lock. Brass scrapes. Sweat slicks his thumb. Report it to the police, or wait and hope no one dies. Hope is cheap. Blood is not. Inside, he exhales through his teeth. Slow, like cooling steel. Taking a rumor about a murder mansion at face value would make him a clown. Four Eyes did say not to take it seriously. Maybe Kurihara was poking fun, dangling horror bait to watch him squirm. The hallway yawns, wood groans, and the dark presses close. He reaches the phone. Forget the mansion for now, he thinks. Tell Yanaoka about the children's room. Stick to the facts. Fingers curl around the receiver, grip tightening until the tendon jumps. The rotary dial whirs, a small storm under his fingertip. The line clicks alive. He greets Yanaoka with polite warmth, filling the space with safe words. Yanaoka answers bright, the sort of voice that keeps wolves at the door. Apologies trade hands. A little dog paws at his leg, nails tapping like rain. He says he is calling about that matter. Yanaoka mentions talking with Kurihara just moments ago. His mouth dries, tongue thick with copper. Where does he even start? He swallows, then chooses the thread that hurts least.
Yanaoka sighs into the quiet and apologizes again. A black cat settles under his hand, a living apology. In the end, he says, "They will not buy that house." The words land heavy, like dirt on a lid. The architect freezes, the receiver hot against his cheek. He asks why. Yanaoka hedges, says the reason is something he probably knows. Has he not seen the morning news? Yellow tape strangles the trees, boots sink into wet earth that smells like iron and rot. An officer points deeper in, where the ground hides secrets it cannot digest. They found a body in the woods near that house, dismembered, packed small by cruel hands. 4 eyes lays it out like a diagram. A bundle, light enough for a child to carry. They stuff the body into the trunk, shut it, and drive. The mountain takes what they bring, because mountains do not argue. The architect breathes a thin, broken sound. Is all that escapes, small and useless. Could you sleep knowing that rumor might be real, and a child is the courier of death? Could you survive?
If rain could scrub a house of its sins, would you step inside? Or trust your gut and stay the hell away?
A voice crawls through the line, reporting a dismembered body near that roof. Kurihara clamps the handset, wet hair clinging, breath held like a hostage. The floor plan he flagged becomes a paper confession, and his hunch locks into place.
Yanaoka calls it a bad omen, the kind that turns stomachs, and that is why he called today.
The cynic in him says it is nothing, yet his eyelid twitches, a bead of sweat cooling like ice. Somewhere behind those walls, a figure crouches in red smears, working a serrated blade that chews at wood like metal teeth. The air reeks of iron and damp rot. The room gapes like a wound, wet lines pouring, silence splitting under the drag of steel. If that house is hungry, whose bones will it take next?
Back in the warm light, the dog lover strokes a muzzle, and regret slips into his voice. He swears he liked that place. Barely finished, almost new, the dog sighs, eyes soft, unaware of the rot that follows people home. Kurihara asks when the nails first bit that frame. Spring of last year, Yanaoka recalls. New wood still dreaming of sawdust. New means nothing when fear moves in. A house abandoned after a single year makes no sense, unless something inside bites. He starts to say, "I," catches it, and listens to the static crawl. He clears his throat, asks where the previous residents drifted, his voice careful not to awaken whatever listens on the line. No idea, comes the answer, apologetic, a dog pressed warm against his knee.
It's the real estate agency for names and addresses, and for the little doors people keep locked. He agrees softly, a faint smile that never reaches his eyes. Yanaoka apologizes for the trouble, promising a meal next time, a kind gesture that tastes strange after talk of blood. Debt is a leash, and he slips it on with practiced ease. The receiver meets its cradle with a small click, and the room exhales, empty and cold. Outside, the rain keeps counting, patient as a hunter. Could you sleep under that roof, while something in the dark keeps count? Could you sleep while a stranger counts your bones, one by one? Cold laptop light bleaches her face as rain ticks the glass. She slides the cursor to a headline that hisses about a dismembered corpse. They found a nameless man in pieces in a grove, buried like trash. Head and limbs severed, stuffed under soil, yet one thing is missing. The left hand is gone, her pupils narrow, fingers hover above the keys, and the old phone breathes dust beside her. If a hand is missing, what debt did it owe? She braces her chin, cool knuckles trying to anchor a restless mind. Every part lies in one place, and it bothers her like grit in the eye. The grove exhales damp rot, mosquitoes sing, and the soil tastes like old coins. A single grave invites discovery, or a ritual. What kind of bastard wants the pieces together? Most killers scatter pieces across a city to slow discovery, buying time while police chase ghosts. Patrol lights bleed across maps, sirens rip the night, and every road steals another hour. Here, everything sleeps in one hole, which means a different objective. He was not hiding, he was arranging. The ceiling mouth yawns open, dust falling in a dry, patient rain. Bound feet sway, skin mottled blue where rope bites deep. She imagines a body sliding through a hidden artery in the house, a secret passage that eats sound. Gather every part in one drop zone, pass it up and through, easy, quiet, cruel. She shakes the thought away. No, that cannot be it, it is just a fantasy. The pull cord snaps in her fingers. The light answers with a hard click. Yanaoka stepped away from the purchase, so that house cut its tie to her. She shoves the idea into a box and locks it. The clock blinks 8:23. A window named World wakes under her cursor. Keys chatter, fingertips sting, shoulders ache from the rhythm. A yawn scrapes her throat and heat stings her eyes. Work is a raft on black water, thin, splintered, but it floats. Still the question needles her. What is that house? Rain hammers the walls like nails driven by a steady hand. A children's room without windows is not a room, it is a cage. A small figure sits in stale air while time pools on the floor. Out in the trees, tape flutters like veins, and officers study churned earth. Her hypothesis hardens like frost. The windowless house and the buried man feel like threads from the same spool. Pull one, and both bleed. If a house could swallow mistakes and spit silence, how long would you pretend not to hear the chewing? Glass walls glare, fluorescent lights buzz like trapped flies. Four eyes drones about people and policy, a tidy hand cutting the air. Kurihara drifts, eyes unfocused, fingers numb around the pen. His voice snaps tight, "Are you listening?" And her heart jerks like a hooked fish. A thin gasp slips free, sweat needles her scalp, pupils bloom wide. She mutters, "Sorry," palm to her brow, trying to steady the tilt in her skull. His tone stays gentle, a blade under velvet. "Focus, and tell me what is on your mind." She counts a breath, holds it, lets it scrape her throat. Her shoulders tremble once, almost nothing. Truth is, a house keeps chewing at the back of her skull. Every thought she files away slides back, slick and stubborn. Could you work while something hungry breathes behind your eyes? The nerd in the Hawaiian shirt pinches his chin, thinking, then brightens like a match head. Interesting. Use the strange house as the theme. Kurihara flinches. Her stomach drops. Her tongue tastes like metal. He smells a story and moves closer to the heat.
He reminds her she has missed drafts, each one tugging at his sleeve.
If you cannot scrape the house from your head, write it and bleed it out. Get the weight off your shoulders. That is his pitch.
She reaches for a protest, the word but, stumbling, breath tight and thin.
Hide the place names, blur the face of the house. No one can trace it, he promises. If a reader sends a tip, everyone wins. Easy logic from Four Eyes and his sunny shirt. Kurihara swallows hard. I guess so, she whispers, and the room cools around her. A site called UKT blooms on the screen. Floor plans open like empty palms. They publish. The page looks clean. The truth waiting behind it is not. That article will pry open a sealed mouth, and what it feeds her will taste like rot. A bright sign-off winks from the bottom. This has been Himura speaking. Do not be sad, and smile more often. If you tore the name from a monster, would it still find you? The reporter drifts through messages, a warm mug heating his fingers, the screen's glow washing his face. Routine clicks, steady breath. The room feels safe. A new thread blooms like mold. A woman calls herself Yuzuki Miyai and nods to his article. She says she knows that house, leaves a phone number, asks to talk. His pupils dilate. Coffee stalls at his lip. A thin bead of sweat crawls from his temple as the word house scrapes along his nerves like a rusty nail. Maybe a prank, he thinks, tasting the bitter. The cup trembles, just a hair. Old dread wakes behind his ribs. But the message carries a name and a phone number. Who jokes with a rope tied to their ankle? Either brave or stupid or bait. He remembers the scrub. He carved out names, blurred the face of the house, smothered the landmarks. He thought he bled the article clean. Even if she lived nearby, she should not link it. Yet a pin presses through the city like a needle through skin. Something slipped, and now it points. His mind unrolls a map of rooms. First floor, second floor. Halls like veins, doors like teeth. Does she know a different layout? The one that should not exist? He starts digging. Keys chatter like insects across the desk. Books crowd the walls. Paper smells of dust and sleep. The glow gnaws at his eyes as he hunts for the truth. He studies the number until his jaw aches. The easy smile he wears for interviews hardens into a mask. He draws a slow breath, thumb poised above call. Would you invite a stranger into your night? The sun pretends to be kind, but mercy burns. Could you trust a meeting born of whispers when houses devour families just out of sight? Laughter drifts over the grass, a ball thuds, heat shimmers like breath from a sleeping beast. She waits under an umbrella, ice sweating down the glass, posture neat, eyes cautious. Yuzuki Miyai from Saitama, an office worker, the latest messenger. After a string of emails, the investigator agreed to hear her in person. A boy chases the ball, carefree, tugging his shirt and cursing the heat. Sweat crawls down his wrist and the damned summer presses like a hand on his throat. She arrives on a quick breath and an apology. Chairs scrape, a polite smile fixed in place. He waves it off, plays easygoing, asks if noon on a weekday works. She says her office lets her step out, no problem. Formal words with soft edges, two strangers measuring the distance. He thanks her, but his guard stays up. In his head, contributors wear cheap sunglasses and lie with tattooed hands. Her tassel earring sways as she offers to order. He asks for iced coffee, watches her steady voice and steady eyes, the roasted bitterness rising between them, telling himself she seems normal, for now. Drinks arrive, condensation slick and cold. Ice taps the glass, a tiny chime that tightens the room. Silence settles, sharp with expectation. He leans in and asks what she meant about the house. Her fingers go still, nails carving half moons into her palm. Her throat works. A bead of sweat slips like a secret. She tries for casual, fails, and finally forces the hinge open. My husband. She swallows. My husband is Himura. He stands in the doorway at noon and repeats the same thing to anyone who passes. In a voice that is not his, he says, "Do not be sad. Smile more often." If a house could smile while it swallowed you whole, would you still knock? She leans in, breath thin, sweat beading along her jaw, and says, "Murder." Across from her, the reporter freezes, pupils blown, lips parting as the room turns sharp and cold, the air tasting like iron. She steadies her voice. "Start from the beginning," she says, palm flat on the table, the glass sweating as if it knows the rest of the story. 3 years ago, in September, Kyoichi Imiyai slung a bag over his shoulder, said he was visiting an acquaintance, and stepped out the door. He did not come back. A uniform spoke in careful tones, eyes sliding off hers. Procedure, patience, nothing concrete. Rust pooled on her tongue, and she hated herself for not asking where. No witness, no address, only a street of blank windows and dead paper curling on a pole. The file closed without answers, quiet as a grave with no name. Months later, the mountains in Saitama gave something back. Damp earth, a shape, a DNA test that whispered his name. The reporter offers sorry, a thin blanket in winter. She nods, but her fingers tremble at the one detail that will not let her sleep. His left hand was gone. A report tied a body to that cursed blueprint house. Police guessed an edged implement did the work, clean and practiced. Yet there was no trail, no culprit, only silence where a scream should be. What happened to her husband? Who killed him? Why steal the left hand? Those questions gnawed night after night. She raked through papers and screens, veins of rumor and fact pulsing under her eyes, the glow needling her skull. Around that time, she found your article. A tidy floor plan, polite lines, a smile drawn over rot. It mentioned a victim whose left hand never turned up. Same wound, same absence. The word same digs under her skin and refuses to leave. Guests walked in and did not walk out. Picture a blade abandoned on the floor, the stains spreading, the railing slick. Floors drink blood, hosts become executioners. A thought flashed, bright and rotten. The acquaintance's place might be that house. If that is true, they are not neighbors, they are killers. Then she repeats the message she found. This has been Himura speaking. Do not be sad, and smile more often. If a house remembered the blood it drank, would a blueprint whisper? She sits rigid, fingers laced until the knuckles pale, refusing the easy lie. She swears these cases breathe the same rotten air. The writer nods, weighing the pattern rolling off her tongue, not ready to dismiss it. The writer admits an overlap, then cools the room with a single word, however. She lays the blade of time on the table. That house rose last spring. Her husband vanished 3 years earlier.
The gap bites the theory hard. Rain needles the modern box. Her voice never shakes. By the time he disappeared, that house was not there, correct?
The writer answers with a small yes, and the rain answers with him. She dips into her bag like reaching under loose floorboards, fingertips grazing cold corners, and draws out proof with edges.
Paper slides free, flat as a morgue drawer. Stairs, walls, a toilet, a bath, all neat little cages. The writer studies the lines, asking what these plans want. The wife does not blink. A former home for the abominations in that strange house. If the new layer rose last year, where did those residents nest before? Her logic is merciless. If the article told the truth, the parents weaponized their own child. Imagine a room with no windows, air stale as a throat clamped by fear, the smell of mildew and old copper. Imagine a passage brushing the murder scene like a cold hand. Could you breathe in there? A house like that leaves paperwork. If it ever went on the market, its blueprints would be sleeping behind glass and dust. She hunted across real estate pages, hopping from listing to listing, eyes burning, fingers stiff from the clicks. Corridor after corridor of polite smiles. The search gnawed at her patience, but she kept carving forward. Eventually, she struck a vein. A lead narrowed the hunt to Saitama Prefecture. The writer leans in, wary and curious, and asks what she means. The memory tastes of dust and old leather. In his room, a desk groaned open, and a long wallet waited like a relic. It stuck to her palm, cold and heavy, and it pointed toward Saitama. Inside, a note read, "This has been Himura speaking. Do not be sad, and smile more often."
How do you hunt a ghost? You read his habits like scars. The widow lifts 2 fingers, and leather answers. Her husband carried 2 wallets. A long one slept with thick bills and credit cards, used for excursions and big bites. A smaller one rode daily with a commuter pass and a little cash. The long wallet waited at home, cold and heavy, which means his last steps stayed close.
Lines on the map snake like veins around Saitama. She does not smell jet fuel, does not taste long road dust. She pins the hunt inside the prefecture.
Under an umbrella, the writer watches her sift blueprints like tarot. She narrows to houses that stood 3 years ago, near their old street. The paper she brings is the result, a plan within walking reach, about 20 minutes on foot from the home they shared.
The writer worries it came too easy. His straw creaks between his teeth. Doubt crawls under the table like a shadow.
They study the layout. Second floor floating over the first like a stacked cage. Bedrooms, stairs, a children's room. Below, the entrance, living, kitchen, toilet, and bathing rooms sit neat on a black field. The neatness feels wrong, like teeth lined up in a stranger's smile. He tracks the flow with a fingertip, feeling the grit of paper. The footprint warps, a wedge chews the living room wall. The entrance sits here, the toilet tucks there. The living space breathes shallow. Something in the geometry whispers no. Beside the sofas, a triangular room squats like a secret. It offers no clear purpose, no comfort. What did they keep there? The pages rustle. Dates whisper early February, 2016. Different drafts share the same crooked heartbeat. Upstairs hides a children's room without windows, shackled to its own toilet. The writer's pupils dilate. Her hand stills on the page, breath catching like a snagged thread. Not surprise, recognition. Another house in Tokyo wore the same design, a signature carved into bone. Back at the table, they drill into the first floor bath. There are no windows. Walls cinch it tight. Next to the changing room, a small chamber waits, polite and pointless. The widow taps it, and murmurs it mirrors the Tokyo house's mystery space. Patterns repeat. Patterns devour. Save your smile for daylight. Night belongs to whatever built this house. If a house promised safety, would you notice the throat beneath the floorboards? Above a child's bed, a second room waits, lined with cold porcelain. Stacked rooms, perfect alignment, a straight drop where laughter ends. Kurihara does the math under open sky, voice low. If a hatch yawns in the children's room, it spills into the void below. That void links straight to the changing room. The stale cleanser stings the nose. Tight walls swallow echoes. A small door confirms the route, polite and wrong. Picture a small body slipping through, breath caged, ribs aching. Bare feet test the dust, each step counts like a heartbeat. They find the seam in the darkness and ease it open.
Water welcomes the guest, heat fogs the tiles, turns skin slack, turns ears into seashells. The room hums like a throat ready to swallow. When the timing ripens, the intruder glides through the changing room. The latch lifts, the mouth opens. They kill while bathwater smothers the scream. Red unwinds in clear currents, and the house drinks it. The tricks differ, yet the ritual stays. Children's room to bathroom, a corridor of intent. It mirrors the Tokyo house like a dark bruise. Still, doubt needles her. This method stands only if the skeptic's hypothesis holds. Her gaze cools, weighing faith against fear. Earrings asks for his thoughts. The investigator hates the pattern, yet the floor plans whisper the same hunger. Too many common points to shrug off. He wonders who lived here. The same family shadowing 2 shells, or something worse, wearing them. Coincidence feels like a bad joke. Sweat beads under the quiet light. Fingers twitch against his coat. He asks for the listing date. She answers without a blink. The 3rd of March, 2018. A neat stamp on a rotten timeline. Patterns repeat. Patterns devour. Could you sleep in a house that learns your breath? Keep your breath shallow. The house is listening.
If a house could swallow a man and wear his name, would you still ask for the key? Kurihara studies the balcony. Wires humming like veins under cold skin. Spring aligns, the house rises, and the timeline starts to bleed. September the 1st, 2016, a man vanishes. Spring of 2018, the Saitama place goes on sale. The Tokyo shell gets finished. Early 2019, they dig up the missing in Saitama. September of 2019, a dismembered corpse rots in a Tokyo grove. Patterns do not repeat by accident, they devour. Could you sleep while the walls count your breath? The skeptic keeps it casual, asks if it is still for sale. The nerd grips her straw until the plastic whispers, ice cracks, and she says it is not anymore. His fingers tense, pulse tapping at his throat. A bead of sweat stings his collar. He pushes for why. She steadies her voice, earring trembling against her neck, pupils wide, and says the listing ended online. She reached out anyway, called the agency, chased the phantom seller. The silence on the line felt heavy, like soot in the lungs. They told her the place burned down months ago. Imagine heat that peels paint like scabs, windows screaming as glass slumps and dies. The blaze gulps air, roars like a beast, and spits sparks into the dark. Wood pops like joints, resin hisses, hair singes, and a sweet, ugly stink coats your tongue. Kurihara repeats it under his breath, burnt to the ground, as sweat glints on his jaw. Plans collapse. Leads die in the smoke, yet someone moved fast to erase. Was it mercy, or cleanup by bastards who hate loose ends? The ashes are tidy, too tidy, and the house, even dead, feels like it is still counting.